Hello everybody, it's week 2 of me completing and ranking every single beginner's Python course. This week I'm still on learnpython.org and I'm going to do a bit of a recap of the good, the bad and the good again perhaps, and with a few learning points. Let's get into it. It's also week 2 of me editing videos, if you couldn't tell. So a quick agenda for today. We're going to look at what we did, well, maybe the project as a whole and what we did last week for week 1. Then we're going to look at what we've done this week, essentially look at the course content, the bads that turned out good, the good that turned out bad, sort of bit of course review and things that didn't make sense to me, sort of logically in terms of the teaching structure. And then we'll go on to me trying to teach something as a demonstration of me sort of understanding it for myself. Then we'll look at what the future holds. So as a super quick recap, I've been on the internet, found the best or most recommended something like 9 courses at this point. I'm just flicking through them all now. And for, this is like a bank of more courses, same with this one. For now, I'm on learnpython.org. I've worked out that next week I'm actually doing the coding for kids. That's not now. Anyway, week 1, we looked at, it was learning how to use VS Code and do this source control thing with committing. I've since, there's a bit more on that. And there was a bit, I'd gone from up to sort of lesson 5. So I'd done Hello World. Well, you can see what it is. That's in the past. And frankly, yeah, that's fine. That's in the past. So this week, if I go onto GitHub quickly, so this week we can see that I've been somewhat busy. There's a cool way actually, you can see your activity on here to show what a keen bean you are. And this is a side project, by the way, but I've been in here and we've got some updates. So I worked out, well, this was one of the errors or issues that I ran into, is when I uploaded 1.10, it actually put itself in here because this was initially 1.1. So yeah, 1.1, 1.10. The way I got around that and have had the nice ordering that we see here is that I had to make everything 2 decimal places. That was a nice learning point. So we'd done up to string formatting, which was useful. There was one thing for basic string operations was the first thing you've not seen outside of that. And there was one thing which was using the in, and I don't know what, a string isn't a variable, but using this in function is important for the final exercise they give you in sort of module 12 there. I'm going to have to rename all this, I realize as well, because Learn Python has got its own master folders, and I've pretended that Learn the Basics is the global main folder, but it's actually a subfolder when you think about it. Anyway, so things that were bad that turned out good. We had the numbering that I've got on there. The thing that I thought I'd really struggle with is this classes and objects. And essentially the way I've always thought that was the most complicated thing ever, is creating an object. But I created this cool analogy in my head. I'm pretty sure it's for classes and objects. Yes, a class is basically a template to create an object. The example and analogy I'll give to you is we have a kitchen manufacturer who makes this class, a brochure. You create your own object, your own kitchen, and then in that kitchen you have functions, so a microwave, a kettle, and you put stuff into those and it pulls them out. And they're basically going to say, you can borrow our class, and maybe we'll call that like a brochure or something. And from this you can pull the bits you want, your fridge, your microwave, your cupboards, and you can create your own kitchen object in your own house. Let's say that our microwave is a function, so fx, or we can have several things in there. So let's go, the function of microwaving you need to put some food in. The inputs are put food in and cooking time, and then out of that you'll get a cooked meal. I think I'm happy with my understanding of that. So modules and packages. I thought this was going to be really easy, and the pacing of the course has been such that I can get these all done without reaching the limit of my attention span, what have you. I got to initializing this part, so about halfway down the page, but you can see this page doesn't actually look that long when I scroll it like this. But when you're going into detail, sort of trying to create a rich learning experience for yourself. Yeah, I tapped out about here. Then when you get to the bottom of it, finally, you're given this. The issue with why this is difficult is because a module and a package is essentially, a module is just another program. So all of these could be modules, all these .py files, which is why, and I got it, but that's why everything kept turning back to plain text, because it didn't have, and I can do it here actually, I'll show you. So if that's just called lists, and I go off it and back on, there you go. It's lost its Pythonness. And if we go back and rename it, so this is all plain text, this should be code. And now if I name it .py, boom, that's problem solving right there. Back to modules and packages. So all of these are modules. You can't call a module into your code under certain conditions. One of those conditions, I believe, I wrote it in here somewhere, it all needs to be lowercase and it can't start with a number. And I believe maybe it can't have spaces. And lastly, might be that you need this .init. This is neither here nor there. I'd named everything with a number. Therefore, I couldn't call any modules in. And then for this learning experience bit here, I then couldn't use any of my functions that I made. So this add one, for example, because this module starts with a number. Bit difficult. You get to the end, and the exercise, this is sort of, they don't really tell you how to, in the RE module containing the word fine, they've not, the lesson didn't, or I felt, didn't educate you enough to be able to tackle this. So I sort of did this merge sort as a hypothetical challenge, and it's sort of implied that it's needed, but because I can't do any importing of modules, it's a bit difficult to learn this through experience. The reason that I picked a merge sort, I hear you ask, is because I simply Googled computer sorting methods, and this comes up in Google Images, but I thought it was really cool. And so this is our merge one here, but it shows all the sorting algorithms. And I know in the background, these all have, I believe it's called big O notation, and it's essentially how many loops and the level of complexity, but you can sort of see this, how it works. And with the merging, it sort of splits in half, but we'll go into that later. So a bit of a course review, and where perhaps now that I've gone through down to modules and packages, where I think this order falls down. Maybe it's not meant to be in order, but I generally read things top to bottom. That'd be controversial. So you do so classes and objects make sense. Dictionaries, from what I understand, so dictionaries, we come onto that and we can go into it, because now I should have actually learned. So a dictionary is basically a list, but rather than using a number, which has, so this has got an index of 0, 1, 2, and that's sort of invisible behind it. So if I called my list 2 or names 2 to print that, it would print 0, 1, 2, it would print Jessica. So this is sort of listy, array, kind of makes sense now that we know what variables are. We do all this other not random stuff, and then we come back to dictionaries, which are basically a type of list. And essentially, rather than having a base and numbered index, from what I understand, there's a good paragraph on this bit, but so rather than 0, 1, 2, you have a string key. So that, I think, would make sense. Rather than lesson 11 would be lesson 4. That would make a lot more sense. And then you've got that package. Basic operators. Okay, that makes sense. String formatting. And then I liked, I guess, conditions, following that, not doing conditions and loops, not doing that, then functions, because you need all that stuff to build a function. Class is an object, so an object is a class is a series of functions, so that builds on that. But yeah, then dictionaries really doesn't feel like it fits in. So we have been bouncing around all over the shop. Now we're going to move on to a wonderful teaching moment. Okay, right, so we're going to explain, let's ignore all this for now. We are going to explain how a merge sort works. Oh, look at that. It pops up. This is what validation feels like. So next week, well, today actually, I need to do input and output and keep my momentum and those lovely little green ticks in my GitHub. And then it looks like the bulk of next week is going to be doing coding for kids, which, as a little sneak peek, so I've already run this once. We need to put in another one. But it looks like we're doing some sort of play game, and we get, wow, look at this. Like, okay, so next week, oh, you bumped into, so I thought next week was going to be done in a couple of days and I'll be able to move on, but looking at this, I think we're right where we need to be, and we are definitely still learning. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching and have a lovely day.